You know, I'm actually kind of surprised at what's been happening the last few days with Nintendo CEOs saying stupid stuff. And it seems like Nintendo's CEOs and management just don't seem to get what gamers want these days. I mean, you have lots of gamers now who know what they want. I mean, sure, you have Nintendo fans who don't know what they want because they've been burnt by Nintendo so many times. But at the same time, there are some Nintendo fans who do want certain things, like Nintendo games with the Nintendo logos and their favorite mascots in them. So is it any surprise that the new Metroid game, unlike the Nintendo games released last year, has been met with largely negative fan reaction? No, I'm not talking about reaction from outside the core Nintendo fanbase. I'm actually talking about all but the most devoted and loyal Nintendo fans who will happily buy anything with the Nintendo logo on it being pissed off about this new Metroid game. And lots of people are, to the point where there's been a petition created by fans to have the game cancelled. So what does Nintendo do when their fans ask them about how they want the game to be a certain way? Well, Nintendo instead just ignores them and says how they're just not understanding it and how it's an amazing game and that once they'll play it, they'll enjoy it. Yeah, like that totally worked with Sonic Boom. I mean, if anybody can recall, one of the first complaints of Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric was just something like the character design. When the game actually came out, there were lots and lots of complaints about that game, and the character design, which was controversial because of how different it was just a minor complaint compared to everything else. Unless, of course, you walk into GameStop with a can of mace. I mean, there's a difference between propelling the franchise forward, like what Reggie said, and actually making the franchise feel new without having to, you know, get rid of stuff that people buy the games for. I mean, here's the thing with Nintendo. Many of their fans do, in fact, want the games to be the same, just with little new features sprinkled here and there. Like with Pokemon, for example. That's a good example. I mean, sure, sales are down since, you know, the older days, such as back when Diamond and Pearl was still big. But here's the thing with Pokemon. Pokemon still sells millions of copies, and many fans will brag this online, even though the series has been losing steam, and even though the series has gained a more and more cringeworthy fanbase over time. And speaking of stupid stuff, Miyamoto has said that Star Fox Zero is not so far from a VR experience. You know, after taking dumps on literally every competitor's virtual reality because, you know, Nintendo is better than everyone else pretty much. And of course he says that thanks to this whole gamepad technology, Star Fox Zero is not so far from a VR experience. You know, even though it's some forced gimmick controller that nobody really wants is seen by the Wii U sales. And even though Nintendo talked about how they wanted to make games people playing together in front of the TV, which is funny because, you know, portables. Many critics have been criticizing Star Fox Zero's controls. And Miyamoto said that, oh, it's, compared to other games, it's a bit complex. You know, this was the same Nintendo which used to have pick up and play games. Like, just remember Nintendo last gen, where their whole niche was the Nintendo Wii and games that literally every grandmother and 3-year-old could play together. But now it seems like Nintendo is so fixated on useless control gimmicks that nobody wants, to the point where they're having their whole games being controlled by these gimmicks. I mean, let's be honest here. When you're driving a car, you don't want to have to, like, look between two screens at once. Same when you're flying a plane. Or same when you're doing all that other stuff. I mean, you want to first and foremost have control of what you're doing. I mean, why do you think modern airplanes have heads-up displays? Why do you think that? Why do modern cars have heads-up displays? Exactly. And yet Nintendo, on the other hand, wants to live in their own universe where they have these gimmicky controls and where everybody buys their weird gimmicky controllers. I mean, who wants that? Nobody. I mean, and here's the thing. Nintendo fan sales alone aren't going to propel their consoles to bestseller status. Just look at the Wii U. Nobody wanted the gamepad gimmicks, and of course, let's not forget that expensive gamepad, when it breaks, you have to pay a ton of money to get it replaced, unlike the competition. But you know, I think the funniest thing that Nintendo said recently was how they've always been close to the esports space. You know, they talked about how they had success with some Smash Brothers tournament made to sell the games, and how they had success with competitive gamers embracing Splatoon and Mario Kart 8. Here's what I find funny about this. The local anime convention or furry convention is not esports gaming. That's just a convention. And here's the thing, you're not seeing all those professional gaming tournaments embrace Mario Kart or Splatoon like they do Call of Duty or Counter-Strike or League of Legends or all these other fine games. I think the only Nintendo game series to even be big in esports was Smash Brothers, and that's because one of them mistakenly ended up becoming popular unintentionally entirely. And then they eventually removed a lot of things that competitive gamers used, with Nintendo fanboys defending it by saying, "Oh, but it's just something that's not supposed to happen." Except even though, you know, it's a fighting game, and with Smash Brothers, it wasn't even designed to be that much of a fighting game, but due to certain design, like, characteristics of the game, it ended up becoming popular with competitive gamers. In fact, I think Melee was one of the most memorable GameCube titles for a very good reason. But since it's the 4th of July weekend here in the US, I decided to see what games which have esports communities were being played more than Nintendo games on a 4th of July weekend. League of Legends, Hearthstone, Dota 2, Black Ops 2, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, StarCraft 2, Team Fortress 2. And I didn't even count games that are just single player or don't really have much of a competitive scene whatsoever. And Smash Brothers is down below even something like Killer 7, and that's just because some, I don't know, streamer channel who does like playthroughs of games, speedruns and stuff, is playing that game right now. But even then, you got games like Fallout 3, NBA 2K15, and Grand Theft Auto 5, and The Witcher 3, and Minecraft, and more, being more popular than Smash on the Wii U. And Splatoon, well, right now, that's below games such as Battlefield 4, Call of Duty 4, Madden 15, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Mega Man X2, Arma 3, and more. I mean, more people are playing the Halo Master Chief Collection, a game that suffered lots of glitches and bugs in it, than Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, or, you know, Splatoon. Oh, and of course, Mario Kart 8. You've got more people playing games like Call of Duty Ghosts, Modern Warfare 3, Skyrim, Super Mario Bros. 3, Far Cry 4, and more on Twitch. I think that's all I need to really say here. Nintendo's games are not even big among esports gamers. And did I mention that their games lack basic features such as gamer tags or voice chat? Because if you lack those features, it's going to be harder to build up a sustaining popular community. It's going to be hard to when you leave out crucial features like that. And I think that's what needs to be said about Nintendo. Their staff and management is out of touch with what their fanboys want, and all they're doing is damage controlling and that stuff. That's all that needs to be said here. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and trust me, Nintendo isn't that company people want to think they are.